Wow, look at how beautiful that is. The mighty Mississippi River, the lifeline of America, maybe. And down below us, the town of Hannibal, Missouri. And this, do you know what this is? It's the Sometimes Vlog, yeah! Yeah! It's a vlog that happens sometimes. Hannibal, Missouri is the boyhood hometown of Mark Twain. It's the place he loved the most, probably, in his childhood and stuff. And this is the place where he based the stories of Tom Sawyer and the beginning of Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, where they start cruising down the Mississippi River, Huck and Jim. It all started right here where young Samuel Clemens, that's Mark Twain's real name, grew up in that town down there. This up here where we're at today, this is Lover's Leap, and as you can see, it provides a pretty stellar view of Hannibal. It's also really high up off the ground. The old legends say that this is where an Indian brave and his beautiful squaw leapt from the cliff because they were from two different tribes and people tried to keep them apart. He was probably like, Miriam, you gotta finish college. What are you doing running around with this boy? What are you doing? But you can't mess with people in love or they'll jump off cliffs. Let that be a lesson to all of us. Normally, heights like this really bother me, but I think because of this protective fence here, this one really, I'm okay. It's a little high. Doesn't this kind of look like Pride Rock? I wonder if this is where the people of Hannibal bring their children in. Yep, Lover's Leap, in loving memory of those two dumb kids that jumped off the cliff that time. A long time ago. Well, as much as I love standing up on top of limestone cliffs, maybe we should go down and see the town, because this town is pretty much one of my favorite places on the world. Mark Twain's boyhood home. This is where it all went down. This is where the young Sam Clemens had all those adventures he later used and stored in his brain and used to write Tom Sawyer. This was Tom Sawyer's house. Yesterday I had this whole place to myself, but today I'm sharing it with a lot of field trips and some construction, which is fine. Have you guys ever read the book Tom Sawyer, like maybe way back in school or something like that? I highly recommend rereading that book. It's actually really good. Like, I know when you're these kids' age, you like have to read it because of school or your parents or whoever, and you're like, okay, Huck Finn, Tom Sawyer, he pretends to be dead, and they paint a fence at one point. Actually, I'm pretty sure that's all most people ever remember about this book, Tom Sawyer. They're like, remember when he like paints the fence and he has to paint the fence, but then he like tricks other people into painting the fence? What a fun one. Now, probably all these kids are wondering, and you would probably be wondering too, what's the big deal? Some dumb old book? Well, I don't want to blow your mind, but at one point we didn't actually have TV or video games in the world. I mean, I did. I always had TV. But you know, in general, TV and video games and tablets and YouTube, that didn't always exist. And before that time, in the dark times, you know, in the long ago, people actually had to do something called read books. They remember. And back then, when a book was any good, it got a lot of attention. So Tom Sawyer was a really good book, and it got a lot of attention. It was like Star Wars or something. Like, this is the greatest book ever. This is amazing. Mark Twain came up with basically the ultimate boyhood in the book Tom Sawyer. Like, it's pretty amazing. He tricks all the other kids into whitewashing the fence for him. It's not every day a boy gets to paint a fence, is it? That puts a new spin on it. Let me give you all my stuff and I'll paint the fence for you, Tom. He hangs out with seedy characters like that no-good Huckleberry Finn. He falls in love with a beautiful girl who apparently actually lived right across the street, and they get lost in an evil dark cave. They go to a creepy cemetery at midnight and witness a freaking crazy murder. Yep, pretty much your standard all-American childhood. All right, well, while all this loud nonsense is going on outside Mark Twain's boyhood home, let's go back inside of it. First, we gotta get a ticket, so we gotta go here. The Mark Twain boyhood home is kind of weird because you don't enter through the front door. First you have to come under this huge stone wall here, which is kind of ugly and weird, and if you've ever looked at pictures or postcards of this place, you probably wondered, what the heck is that awkward stone wall doing there? Well, that was actually built by the WPA, you know, the FDR stuff, back in the day to protect the boyhood home from a lumber yard that was right here, because the thinking was, if the lumber yard goes up in flames, we need something to, you know. Anyway, back here in what used to be a restaurant, I think, or like a Pizza Hut or something, you buy your ticket, and then you walk out of this building, back through the wall, through this other stone house next to the boyhood home, and then into the boyhood home from the side. This is probably a good time to mention that I was actually here before and filmed a whole video about the history and about Mark Twain's childhood and all that kind of stuff, and we got to go inside the boyhood home through the front door and like behind all the glass and check out all the stuff with the director of the museum. So you can check that link down below in the description if you want more history and all that kind of stuff. We had VIP access last time. This time I have no one. Oh, I love this. The interpretive center. I'm a big fan of interpretive centers. They got all kinds of cool stuff in here, like Mark Twain's mom's dress, videos and pictures and quotes and information, a bell from Mark Twain's school, creepy doll, and some awesome doilies. Definitely a pretty cool place. But as much as I love interpretive centers, and I think that we know that I do, I'm here for the good stuff. I'm here for the Boyhood Home. Wait, what the heck? It's an Aquafina machine, but it's a Mark Twain edition. High and fine literature is wine, and mine is only water. But everybody likes water. Mark Twain. Perfect quote for an Aquafina vending machine that also has Mountain Dew. Mark Twain and Mountain Dew? I love this place. All right, time for the home. So you come out of there and you enter this stone building next door to the Boyhood Home, which has a gift shop inside of it. It used to be the old museum. And you come along the side, all awkward and weird, and they have this video that normally plays. It's like, you're about to enter the Mark Twain home, and you kind of stand in the hallway with people. And then finally, you come through this side door and out to the home. See? You sort of enter through the wall. Before we go in here, I gotta warn you, I am really nerdy about Mark Twain, and you're just gonna hear me talk about Mark Twain things for like a while. For this part, okay? Can you handle that? Because if you don't want to hear me talk about it, you can wait outside. Okay, come here. Well, the whole place is walled off with this crazy glass. Last time I got to go inside of it and stand inside the front door and do all that stuff. It was super cool. We found out that none of the furniture is original because they've never recovered anything that the Clemens family had while they were in Hannibal. So these are all like period items that are kind of close to what they guess might have been in the house. That bottle on the table is painkiller medicine, and that's actually the real stuff from back in the day. Tom Sawyer had to take it in the book, and of course Mark Twain's real life mother made him take that medicine. Supposedly it burned like fire when you took it, but also it had a little opium in there is what we learned. You can just look at the last video, you'll find out, but there's opium in there. People back in the day were crazy. The house is like segmented, the rooms with plexiglass or glass or whatever it is, so you have to keep walking around, but you start to think like, wait a minute, were all these doors in the side of the house? There's even doors upstairs kind of to the side of the house. The answer is no, they weren't in the house back in the day. They had to put these here for us to come in the side of the house. Otherwise we would just be peeping in all the windows, and then if we were just coming up to all this and just creeping in there, then people walking by over there would be like, he's a peeping Tom. And we don't allow any Back to the Future references in here. This is the Mark Twain home. Downstairs you got the kitchen here, the dining room, and the living room that we already saw. Cool thing about the kitchen, other than this, is the fact where like Sam Clemens and his family used to cook their meals in here. Like, this is the real place and nourish the real guy that I love. But other than that, a really cool part is they've added in some stuff about slavery in here. And Mark Twain's family did own slaves. He was raised in a slave-owning society, in a slave state, in a slavery household. Which is gonna make everybody ask me, wait, wasn't Mark Twain racist? Because there's been a lot of controversy in the modern times over the N-word being in Huckleberry Finn, or should we take it out of there, or what should we do about that? So was Mark Twain a racist? The short answer was, no, of course not. Huckleberry Finn follows a path almost like the real life Sam Clemens followed, where he was born into a slave-holding society. He grew up here where there were slaves in the house, and then grew up and put together, wait a minute, this is wrong. Nobody in the young Sam Clemens' life would have said anything against slavery. As a matter of fact, he says right here, the local pulpit taught us that God approved of it, that it was a holy thing, and that the doubter need only look in the Bible if he wished to settle his mind. In this time and place, it was just not just considered normal, but it was considered right and good, and if you questioned it, they would literally ride you out of town. So nobody questioned that, especially you were raised with that as a little kid and taught all the time, this is right, this is the right thing, it's fine, slavery is good, slavery is great. So the fact that he then went on to write the greatest anti-slavery book of all time, Huckleberry Finn, which is exactly what that book is, and anyone who disagrees with that just really doesn't know what the heck they're talking about, is pretty amazing. Anyway, now we are upstairs. Upstairs is awesome because you have Mark Twain's room, aka young Sam Clemens' room, aka I guess Tom Sawyer's room in the story and all that. Also his brother slept in here. He had a brother named Orion, that's Orion, but pronounced weird, and Henry, who lived in the house with them. Orion mostly didn't live here, but then he had his sister Pamela's room, who they pronounced Pamela. Her name was Pamela, or Pamelia, but not Pamela for some reason. I don't know why. Then over here is a big closet, which is kind of weird, and then his parents' room, which is cool. Mark Twain's dad was a lawyer and justice of the peace and very well respected, but he was a super terrible businessman. He lost this hotel that he lived at before that he owned. Then he lost this house. They had to move in across the street upstairs to the drugstore. And then his dad died up there, and then the family moved back in here as tenants, and just this, they had a whole crazy story growing up here. But I've talked about the house enough for now, because I've talked about it a million times before, and now we gotta go out and see the rest. Ooh. The gift shop is incredible. So many Mark Twain things. Mark Twain shirts, Mark Twain books, coasters, knickknacks, rulers, bobbleheads, mugs, pens, weird cast iron dogs. I think that might be huckleberry jam. Look at this, it's like Knott's Berry Farm in here. But instead of boysenberry, it's huckleberries. I see what they did there. This is like Mecca for me. I want all of this stuff. I want this. I want this. I want this. I want this. Oh, I already have that one. I want this. I definitely want this. Whoa. I need to go outside before I buy all of the things. Gimme, gimme, gimme. I need. Look, they have Huckleberry Finn hats and Mark Twain t-shirts, and now this lady thinks I'm really weird, so I probably need to go. Thank you. You too. I'm not crazy, I promise. Well, maybe just a little. Across the street from Sam Clemens' home is the home of his bae, Laura Hawkins, aka Becky Thatcher in Tom Sawyer. It's really confusing going back and forth between the names from the book and the names of the real life people, but I'm just gonna stick with the real life people from now on, and you can figure it out yourselves for the book. Pretty convenient having bae right across the street, huh? Oh yeah. Ooh. This is awesome. Oh, here's Sammy Clemens' bae right there. Laura Hawkins Fraser. Of course, that's her at age 70, so she's not as hot as she probably... I can't, I'm sorry. Look, there's a picture of them together when they were old. They were probably thinking, remember when we weren't old? I know that's what I'm always thinking. And there's a picture of her with all of his other school chums. See, the thing about Laura Hawkins is she outlived Sam Clemens by a long time, so she could be interviewed and stuff way after he was gone and tell everybody really cool, embarrassing stuff like, yep, him and I played together like two girls. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure she even said that his hair looked like a girl's haircut, so even though he left town and never married her, I guess she got her revenge. Here are the costumes of Tom and Becky, because Hannibal always has official Toms and Beckys that walk around and talk to people. Not today, though. Tom and Becky don't want to talk to me. Here's an old Tom and Becky right here at the opening of Walt Disney World's Tom Sawyer Island. That's pretty cool. A lot of information in this place. And it's very, very quiet. Which is making me feel uncomfortable. Oh my gosh. A fun pick opportunity. I could be Tom Sawyer. Fun pick! You want to do Becky too? Oh yeah, of course! I love to be Becky. What a fun one. Thank you very much. I love this town. Now, next door to Becky Thatcher's house, you have Judge Clemens' law office. This is where Mark Twain's dad worked very unsuccessfully as a lawyer, and also the scene of some other really cool stuff I talked about last time. That's what's under construction right now. And then next door to it, you have this house, the Pilaster house, where Mark Twain's dad actually died upstairs. They moved this over here. It was like a couple blocks away because they were like, oh, we should move that building over closer to the Boyhood Home. But in so doing, they actually moved this building where his dad was a failure next to this room where he died. So this probably wouldn't be a happy spot for the old Clemens family. Ugh. Actually, that always tripped me out. Mark Twain's dad, who lost that house over there, had to move to the upstairs of Grant's drugstore over here, died of pneumonia, and left his family with pretty much nothing. But as bad as that sounds, if it weren't for that tragic circumstance, young Sam Clemens would have never been forced to drop out of school and work as an apprentice newspaperman. And it was working for the newspapers in town, one of which was right there where there's a parking lot now, one of which was upstairs right here, and one of which was his brother's that ended up back inside the bottom floor of that house actually over there. It was working for those newspapers that made him rich and famous and beloved by millions, including me. Look, see my tattoo right there? I'm a real fan, not a poser like my friend Bob. I don't have a friend named Bob. But if I did though, I bet he'd be a total poser. He'd be like, oh yeah, I love Mark Twain, but he wouldn't though. I seriously love this town. Right across the street from all that Mark Twain Boyhood Museum properties over here is a whole row of buildings from the 1830s. After Mark Twain's day, when Hannibal was a sleepy little riverboat town, it changed a lot. The railroad made it this big, crazy center of lumber, and there's all these mansions and crazy huge brick buildings. By the time he came back here in 1902, when he was an old man, he barely recognized the place. But this little section here, all these buildings were here in Mark Twain's time. This one was owned by his friend Tom's dad, and this building was here, and over here on the corner, this is one of the newspaper offices he first worked in. And then behind me over there, next to Grant's drugstore, this building over here used to have a candy store in it that young Sammy Clemens used to go in and buy candy from. So in some ways it might be difficult to see the town that Mark Twain was describing in the 1840s, you know, Tom Sawyer era. Like for example, there's all kinds of modern houses up on this big hill over here that was called Holiday's Hill back then. But that's the hill he actually played on with all his friends. That's the hill where Tom Sawyer would have done all that stuff. The widow Douglas would have lived up on that hill. Lots of crazy Mark Twain stuff is still here. You just have to know where to look for it.
You know.
I bet you're thinking to yourself, those guys are huge Mark Twain fans. No, no, no. They're actually here because of this. The Hickory Sticks Gift and Quilt Shop. I was reading some of the pamphlets downstairs in the hotel last night. It turns out the Hannibal is a big stop on the quilt trail, which is a thing. So, the more you know. It looks like there's a lot more people in town today. Yesterday I took the day off and didn't film anything. Kind of just hung out here. It was raining and it was kind of nasty and there was really nobody here. In fact, I tried to take this trolley tour in front of me and I tried to take the ghost tours here, but neither one was operating because there just weren't enough people in town. Sure is beautiful, isn't it? Slightly disappointing though. I mean, Mark Twain was famous because he was a riverboat pilot and he wrote this book called Life on the Mississippi, all about the steamboats, and then steamboats are in Tom Sawyer, steamboats are in Huck Finn, and Rivers of America's got the Mark Twain steamboat, but what do they got here? That's right, Hannibal, Missouri has its own Mark Twain riverboat. Only in Hannibal, their Mark Twain riverboat is cruising up the actual Mississippi River. Today the Mark Twain is sailing with a whole bunch of passengers, but yesterday I rode this thing in the rain and there was pretty much nobody. It was actually really beautiful out there. We got to go all the way out by where those islands out there that are the real life versions of what Jackson's Island was and Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn and all that stuff. And it was kind of beautiful to be standing on the deck of, well, a replica steamboat type thing out on the real Mississippi River where Mark Twain used to hang out. It was pretty rainy and gray and cold outside yesterday, but I did have pretty much the entire boat to myself. So I totally don't regret going yesterday instead of on a beautiful sunny day like today at all. So just wanted to get that clear. The boat cruise is about an hour long and takes you for a little tour around the local part of the Mississippi River. They also do dinner cruises on the Mark Twain Riverboat that promise live entertainment. I think it's actually just a local band. I don't think it's a murder mystery theater or anything like that, although that would be cool. But they didn't have any gluten-free food, so I opted to take the 1 hour sightseeing cruise instead. A 1 hour tour, a 1 hour tour. Okay, full disclosure, I meant to take this 1 hour tour, but I got here slightly too late. But it's not a big deal. I did the cruise yesterday. Plus, this gives me a chance to see other stuff in Hannibal I haven't seen yet. Like this freaking log. It's carved, it says Hannibal on it, there's a steamboat. Somebody carved a steamboat into a log. How you doing, everybody? Speaking of steamboats, yesterday I spent a long time searching for the ultimate Mark Twain souvenir, and I think I might have found it. Look at this old brass steamboat. Somebody painted it silver, but it kind of gives it like a nice old looking patina on there. This thing is old, it is metal, it is heavy. I bought it at this antique store up the street for 40 bucks. I figure I could spend $25 on a t-shirt, or I could get This thing is awesome. If you look down underneath us, all these old stones here are part of the original place where the old steamboats would pull up and drag themselves on shore here to unload and load up passengers. I don't know how often they replaced those old stones, but this would have been the part where Mark Twain would have got on those old steamboats. This might be the very place he left Hannibal, Missouri from, right here on these very stones. Today they got a modern boat dock here. It's known as Nipper Marina. Now the only boat I got down here at the marina is this metal steamboat here. But I figure if you're gonna own a Mississippi River steamboat, it needs to touch the Mississippi River. All right, here goes nothing. Oof. Can you imagine if I fell in there? That would not be good. Here we go. I did it. A Mississippi River steamboat. Of course, now it's all wet. Can you imagine if I had fallen in there? That would have not been good for me. Probably would have been funny for you guys though. I mean, I could go fake it. No. Man, see how brown and muddy that water is? It does not get any clearer out in the middle of the river. That's just the color of it. The Mississippi River is one of the biggest rivers in the world. And honestly, one of the most fascinating. I mean, rivers were the super highways of the past. If you wanted something shipped up to Hannibal, like you wanted a piano or something, you had to order it to come up by steamboat. If you wanted to go anywhere, you went by steamboat. It was like super fast. It was like taking a jet back then. And now I have the ultimate Mississippi River souvenir. This thing, pretty cool. Every couple of minutes, somebody from town stops and they're like, what the heck are you doing? This guy was like, I see you're up to something. I just can't figure out what it is. I was explaining the whole steamboat thing to him and all this stuff. Anyway, if we can't see Hannibal by steamboat out there because we missed the boat, as it were, maybe we can see it by land. You can see a good portion of Hannibal, especially the Mark Twain stuff, on foot. But in addition to being able to walk around all over town with all the friendly faces and interesting places, they also have these historic trolley tours. Honestly, I'll take the trolley, I'll walk, I'll go anywhere in this town. It's gorgeous. I mean, really. Talk about Main Street USA. There's all these people over here. They all know each other. They're all talking to each other. And they're all talking about the weird guy walking around with a camera. I haven't seen him yet, but I've been keeping my eyes open. Here it is. The Hannibal Trolley Company. Hello. I'm very excited about the trolley tour. Does this go to the neighborhood of make-believe?
You're not a senior, are you?
No, not yet. Ooh, thank you. I've got my ticket. There used to be trolleys like this in Anaheim, like by Disneyland, that would drive around all over the place. And because of Mr. Rogers, I always thought, wow, that'll go to the neighborhood of make-believe, or maybe it's going on a tour somewhere or something. And then I got older and I realized, oh, they just go back and forth from Disneyland to hotels. Still cool, just I wanted to see Mr. Rogers and King Friday. So far, I'm the only one booked on this tour. We got the owner of the trolley and the driver of the trolley just chilling on a bench, waiting to see if anybody else comes. But in the meantime, while we wait, maybe I can get a fun pic. This is gonna be a good one, I can tell. I'm a beautiful flower. Hooray!
I'm an ugly flower over here.
What a fun one! Does this happen a lot where there's just one person on the trolley?
Well, this early it could happen.
See, this is one of the prime benefits of coming before summer, before school lets out, is that you get to do a lot of this stuff in town by yourself. Look at this. I'm standing in the middle of the main thoroughfare here in town, well, at least in the historic part of town. It's a handful of people, gorgeous scenery. I had to come back to my car and grab like the only $2 in cash I have because I spotted a sign inside the trolley that said gratuities accepted, and if this guy's gonna give me a trolley tour by myself, I have to leave some kind of tip. Thanks.
You ready to go?
Yep, I'm ready. Here's my ticket. I don't know if you need it. Oh. It's just me and you.
To the right is Huckleberry Finn's house. Huckleberry Finn was a real person. He was a childhood friend of Mark Twain's. He lived here all of his life. His real name was Tom Blankenship, was his real name. Here's the museum. It has all of Mark Twain's books in it. So Aaron went to St. Louis, and in World War II, they housed POWs on that field. They brought them here in '44, and released them in 46. There was over 200 of them, and they kept them in tents, and they guarded them from the balcony there.
German POWs or Japanese?
German.
What? There were Nazis down there. Weird.
They released them in 46.
Not into the town though, eh?
They give them an option. They could stay here in the United States or go back to Germany. Some of them stayed. So this was a big German colony at one time. Hannibal.
It's pretty awesome riding in here with no seatbelt, and I'm the only one in here. I feel like the President of the United States of America. You guys ever had any like weird famous people come along and say, I want the trolley tour?
I had a guy here about 2 weeks ago that come in the trolley office, and he was talking about Tom Blankenship, which was Huckleberry Finn's name. Come to find out, he was kin to him.
Look at this. I think there's a lady over here taking a nap. Should we check on her?
That are homeless.
I don't know. She's okay. Do you ever just drive this thing to Walmart, go shopping, or if you need to move a couch or something, you just borrow the trolley?
Well, my boss. It's funny you said that. Cotton, he said, what are you going to do after you get off work? And I said, oh, nothing. What do you need? He said, I need some boards hauled. And I said, how long? And he said, about 16 feet. I said, I can't haul 16-foot boards on my truck. He said, no, we're going to take the trolley. We took the trolley over to Quincy, filled this something up full of boards, and brought it back.
That's awesome.
So here the other day, there was a girl who bought a door. She said, can I stick a door on here? And I said, well, I guess so. I said, we've hauled lumber on it before.
Cotton, I am really enjoying this trolley tour.
All right.
We've now taken the trolley into the woods. I'm pretty sure this is where you are about to murder me, Cotton.
This is, over there is Turtle Island.
Ooh.
And it got its name by the big mud turtles that was over there. The local people and the local fishermen used to go over there and get those mud turtles, and they would send them to Chicago and different places for delicacy meat.
Oh, good. The only people getting murdered around here are turtles.
Turtles.
Look at that down there.
That's a 300-foot drop off.
Wow! And I have no seatbelt. Hooray! Whew. The only time I'm gonna make Cotton stop the bus right here because there's another statue of Mark Twain up here in this park. It's probably the only Mark Twain related thing that I haven't seen yet in Hannibal. What is that?
They call them turkey buzzards.
Look at him, all majestic up there, looking out over the Mississippi River like some sort of communist dictator. 300-foot drop off, huh? Sheesh. There's Illinois out there.
That's it.
I would go there, but it's Illinoising. It's not my best joke, but it'll do. Looks like Villa Coola. With Pippi Longstocking's house over there. See, coming from Southern California, where everything was built in the 50s, there's two things. Everything in town seems super old and historic to me, and also, to me, everything in town looks like it's straight from a horror movie. That house right there looks like something out of an Alfred Hitchcock movie, to me. Big time. You know that one's haunted. Just saying.
This is the old jailhouse.
This right here?
It was a jail till 1970 something.
Wait, 1970 something?
Yeah, it was still a jail.
That's the scariest looking jail I've ever seen, honestly. It looks like if you didn't get killed by the other inmates, you'd be killed by the ghosts or Dracula or somebody.
Let you out, and I'm gonna go fill this thing up with gas.
All right.
For tomorrow.
Well, thank you very much, Cotton. Thanks for taking me all by myself.
Back home safe.
That was awesome. My personal Hannibal tour. As you can see, not too crowded in Hannibal. Coming from Disneyland lately with lots and lots of crowds, and then I was at Disney World and all that stuff. This is kind of a nice change of pace for me. I mean, it's different in the summer. Hannibal does get plenty of visitors because of the Mark Twain thing and all that kind of stuff. But obviously, nothing like home. But this is nice. I really needed this couple of days here. This feels good. Just a little ways south of town is something else that looms large in Mark Twain's books, but especially in the book The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. It's in this beautiful, beautiful place called Cave Hollow. I didn't just come here to show you this sign, but I like I really love that sign. Other than the sign, Cave Hollow is also home to Mark Twain Cave. This is the cave that young Sam Clemens and his friends used to go and explore with candles. It is huge, it is freaky, and it is very, very real. You ever been on Tom Sawyer's Island in Disneyland or whatever, then you've seen these little Tom Sawyer Island caves. These are, well, that's kind of what I was expecting, you know, when I read the book Tom Sawyer, like little tiny little caves. These are completely different. I do not have time to take the cave tour today because I gotta go take the haunted Hannibal tour tonight. But luckily, yesterday when I was doing all this stuff by myself, not only did I take the cave tour, I was actually the only one on the cave tour, like literally the only person. And so luckily, my guide was able to take me somewhere most people don't usually get to see. I am inside of the Mark Twain Cave with John here, who has led me to McDowell's chamber.
The Dr. Joseph Nash McDowell chamber. Now, Dr. McDowell is a very well-respected doctor, and he had heard you could petrify a body in a cave. So he bought our cave, went around Hannibal trying to find someone to donate a deceased loved one's body. Well, as you can imagine, no one was really too keen on that idea. They told him he was crazy and to go home. Well, he didn't like that too much, but he was eventually getting ready to give up on his experiment, and got home to St. Louis and found out his 14-year-old daughter had been diagnosed with a horrible case of pneumonia. Well, she ended up dying from that. Well, he figured, in the name of science, I will use my daughter's body and try to petrify her. Well, he brought her back here, hung her in a glass and copper cylinder filled in alkali solution, and left. Well, eventually the kids of Hannibal found the girl's body and thought it'd be fun to tell her little siblings scary stories. Now, at the end of these scary stories, the brave young boy would grab the girl up by her hair and shine a candle in her face. Well, as you can imagine, little kids didn't like that too much, so they went running, crying home and told their parents. Now, their parents weren't very happy, so they petitioned for McDowell to remove the body, and he eventually did. But before burying it in the family mausoleum in St. Louis, he took it to a local doctor and asked how long he thought she'd been dead. The doctor said no more than a few weeks. In reality, she had been dead over 2 years. He did not petrify her, he'd actually just successfully preserved her. And right here is actually where he cut into the wall to hang the chamber.
In this room, in this spot, he stuck his dead daughter here and preserved her.
Instead of petrifying her.
And kids from town used to come in here and pull her out and look at her face.
Pretty much.
So that's what people did for fun 200 years ago. Awesome. So he drilled that hole for something.
Yep.
And this line is in here from the same thing. Because Mark Twain wrote about it, he called it like a glass cylinder and said people came and dragged her up by the hair. And you're saying they lit a candle under her face?
Pretty much.
And it would be pitch black, freaking dark in here. So it would be the most terrifying thing of all time. Like, it'd be terrifying just to come in here.
Absolutely.
And then you're gonna pull up a corpse of a dead little girl.
Yeah.
Which is like,
real fun, right?
yeah, the basis of every horror movie ever. John says that he had to come in here alone one time and saw the ghost of the little girl. Maybe McDowell's daughter there. Wait, what happened? You had to come in here because of strollers?
Yeah, someone left a stroller in here and I had to come get it by myself. I was walking through and swore I seen something come out from a corner beside me.
That is, and no animals live in here, right?
No.
Like that you know of.
Just some bats and a few frogs.
And this wasn't a frog?
No, this
You're
was not a
100%
frog.
sure this
Yes,
wasn't a frog?
I'm 100% sure this wasn't a frog.
Because look at, that's freaking, that's, how far back is that? Like,
Oh, that's probably a good
30
60 feet or so.
okay, see that's far right there. So it's creepy. Like you could see, if I saw a person or anything moving down there, I would lose my mind. Money. The money pit! We found it! We're rich! This is awesome!
This is our wishing well.
Oh.
This money actually goes to a local program called the Tom and Becky program.
I thought it was gonna be our money.
Now, this is a program where 7th grade boys and girls try to be Tom and Becky for a year.
It's just you and me in here in a cave that's, how many miles did you say?
About 3.5 miles worth of passage.
3.5 miles worth of passages laid out like a creepy maze, and just me and John here walking around it. What if you hit your head and forgot how to get out of the cave? Would we get lost?
We'd have a little bit of fun.
I was trying not to film at all yesterday, so I had to film that with my iPhone, so I hope it gave you a little example. It's really hard to tell with that camera that I had yesterday how crazy the caves are. I mean, 30 or 40 feet above your head at some points, just winding and twisting and dark and creepy, and it's really, really cold in there. There's all this clay all over the floor and it sticks to everything, just like it talks about in the book Tom Sawyer and all that stuff. But you can tell that I really needed to shave. Tom and Becky were lost in those caves in the book, which is one of the creepiest parts of any quote-unquote children's literature ever. But it takes on a whole new dimension of creepiness once you've been in the actual caves. Like, getting lost in there would be no fun. Luckily, you could make up for it with more fun pics.
Well, hey, Becky, it's me, Tom. I won't get you lost in the cave.
Okay, Tom, you're handsome, so I'll believe anything you say.
Funny story, Becky. Guess what?
What? Oh, we're totally lost.
Tom Sawyer, this is why my daddy always says you're a loser. But I'm not a loser, Becky. We're lost in a cave. You literally are.
It's pretty much exactly how the story of Tom Sawyer goes. You're welcome. This is definitely one of the coolest things you can do, not just in Hannibal, one of the coolest things I think I've ever done anywhere. If you ever have a chance to come see the Mark Twain cave, it's not like the craziest caves in terms of the craziest stalactites and stalagmites or anything, but I don't know, for me personally, I'm not a cave person, but it's like, it's fantastic. They also have a winery over there with all kinds of Mark Twain themed wines, which is like super great if you're a whiner. Or a wino. Jeez, look at the size of this massive tree over here that I'm parked under. This thing is out of control. Beautiful trees, wonderful caves, and about 50 billion mosquitoes. This is also where I got the best Mark Twain souvenir I've ever seen. Look at this. Look at that. It's a little stuffed Mark Twain. He may be an adventurer, but even Mark Twain buckles up for safety. Right? You know what I'm saying?
Can we go now?
Oh, yes, of course. Right away, Mr. Twain. Wait, is he my boss now? I have to head back into town now because I'm booked on the Haunted Hannibal Ghost Tour tonight. Unfortunately, you guys can't come, not only because it's super loud and you wouldn't be able to hear or really see much of anything, and I can share the information hopefully with you guys a little bit later, at least some of it, but also because these videos have been running a little lengthy and long, so they've been taking 3-4 hours to edit every night, and I have not been getting much sleep, and especially since I'm in this town supposedly to take a little rest and try to relax a little, I'm gonna cut you off right about here. If you're interested in more Hannibal, or specifically Mark Twain's Boyhood Home, Mark Twain's Boyhood Home history, I would go check out that other video I did. I'll put the link down below in the description. We actually got to go inside of here last time, behind the glass, with the director of the museum, so that was pretty cool.
Sam Clemens? I know you're in there, Sam. Sammy? Sam? Mark? Mr. Twain?
Alright, definitely some more Hannibal exploration tomorrow. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Check out my t-shirts and my sweet hats. Live fast, I put out Spreadshirt.com. I also got a Patreon. I got other videos about this place and other crazy places. So check down below for all that stuff. I'll see you guys a little further on down the river, because right now I got a fence to paint. So reach away. There we go, come on. What? What do you want from me, man? But I already painted the 2 coats. You gotta be out of here. All right, I'm doing it. All right, don't worry about it. I'll paint the fence. That's what I came here to do, paint the fence. I know, Tom Sawyer. Yeah, it's fine. It's the most fun I've ever had. I hear you, train.
Now, it looks like he's done his duty. If he has, he can go home and sleep well. I'd never paint this fence myself. Old Twain still got it.